why Mr. Vanga Reddy has assumed that I was talking about his film, you'll have to ask him because I haven't seen his films. Actually, Amir is one of the few people I know who's apologized for specifically the song that Mr. Vanga Reddy was talking about, which is Khambe Jaise Khadi Hai, and other such films. There are lots of people who are problematic in that sense. And showing them on screen would not be wrong at all. But to justify it and make them the hero is odd to my mind. What we've been seeing for decades in our popular cinema, where the representation of women has been very, very problematic in many, many films.
Hi Kiran, welcome to The Quint, and thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you, Swati.
I know Lapata Ladies got so much love from everyone, and we all back home were waiting to watch the films. And you talk about a deep-seated patriarchy, you use comedy to say all of it. How did such an interesting subject really come your way?
Actually, it came Amir's way because he was the judge of in 2018 of a screenwriting competition.
Okay.
It was then called Two Brides. He loved it so much that he came home and he was like, listen to this story, and he told me the one line of the story, and I absolutely loved it. And we both decided then that we should make it, and I said I would be really interested to direct, and I was really happy because he felt I was the right person, and he was like, absolutely go for it.
There is a scene where there is violence, right? And the character in the film very straightforward says that it's the law, you can't do this. And then we have films where it's kind of done and said, listen, if you can't do this to your partner, then where is the love, right? As a filmmaker, how do you view this, and what would you like to say to somebody who kind of maybe makes stuff like that?
Ultimately, if different stories need different kinds of telling, and I feel like characters, you have to have the freedom to build a character the way you want. But if that kind of problematic behavior is justified, that's a bit sad. I mean, because it's which is what we tried to show, is that actually there is a law. Now, the fact that many people choose to ignore it or violate it is not something we want to hold up.
Absolutely.
I mean, problematic behavior, as there are lots of people who are problematic in that sense. And showing them on screen would not be wrong at all because this is life. There are people like this. But to justify it and make them the hero is odd to my mind, and not responsible in some ways, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, recently I've been having a lot of talks about the impact of films on society, and a lot of directors and actors have said, but there's also an impact of society on films, which I totally agree. In my opinion, I feel like glorifying things that are not right with the society is where the problem is. It's not showing what's wrong.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
I agree. And I do think we cannot put the onus on filmmakers to give a message. Yeah. We are not here to educate technically. That's not a filmmaker's job. Having said that, as just like a responsible member of society, I feel like any broad mass work that is going to speak to millions, maybe billions of people, needs that filter. So that at the end of the day, we make society a slightly better, stronger, more, sort of unified fabric, rather than make space for people to think that, the opposite is okay. It would be fine to show it because that is true.
Absolutely.
But to glorify it or justify it, like you said, wouldn't be the most socially responsible thing to do. It's a bit like saying, would you like your family to turn out like? Would you like your kids to watch this, or would you like your children to be dealt with like this? Yeah, no. Would you want your kids to be dealt with like this? It's a little like, it's fine if you show it, but if that's how you want what you want your heroes to stand for, then that's a problem.
Okay, and recently, of course, when Animal released, you had said that you're somebody who does not subscribe to normalizing stalking or misogyny, and you had spoken about it. Now, recently, director Sandeep Reddy Vanga has saying that we should probably look at some of the films that Amir has done. Is there something that you would like to say to that?
Actually, I haven't commented on Mr. Sandeep Vanga Reddy's films because I haven't seen them. Okay. I have often spoken on misogyny and the representation of women on screen. I've talked about it on various platforms at various times, but I've never taken the name of any film because it's not really about the specific film. It's really about the issues, and I will continue to speak on these issues. Why Mr. Vanga Reddy has assumed that I was talking about his film, you'll have to ask him, because I haven't seen his film, so I've never commented or taken the name of any of his films. In fact, coming to the question of Aamir, since you brought it up, actually Aamir is one of the few people I know who's apologized for specifically the song that Mr. Vanga Reddy was talking about, which is Khambe Jaise Khadi Hai, and other such films. And I don't know, I mean, there are very few people who would actually look at their body of work and apologize for something that they did that they think is problematic in retrospect. And if you see Satyamev Jayate, there's an episode in season 3 where he actually talks about this, when the Smashing the Patriarchy episode. So I think, he is one of those people who's stepped up and taken responsibility as a creative person, as a person speaking to a mass audience for his work. And I think that's really laudable. And honestly, I don't know if Mr. Reddy has something to tell Aamir. He should tell him man to man. I'm not responsible for Aamir's work or Aamir Khan. So I wish Mr. Reddy would address his questions directly to Mr. Khan. I feel people who generally are in the public gaze find it very hard to backtrack or be apologetic or even look at their work critically. You know, we all are very close to our work and are very defensive about our work. And honestly, I think that one episode of Satyamev Jayate did so much, I thought, to actually address what we've been seeing for decades in our popular cinema, where the representation of women has been very, very problematic in many, many films. And that a big star should step up, use his star power to talk about the fact that he himself has done it, and he recognizes it and apologizes for it, admits to having created a very poor image of women in his films, is incredibly gracious and evolved. And I really think, many, many more people should examine their work, when you think of the impact it's having on people. I think it also comes from the fact that you value being a human being a little more than being a star.
Very nicely put.
Are you a human first, or are you a star first? That's the question. Are you a filmmaker first, or are you a human being first?
Given just a little earlier in this answer, you spoke about women representation, right? That was on screen. But as a director and part of the fraternity, when you look at women representation around you, do you think it's changed a little bit?
You know, honestly, I thought that it had changed a lot, because in the 25 years that I've worked in the film industry, I've worked with a lot of very dynamic, talented women, and there's really been, I've never faced discrimination. I've not seen it or experienced it amongst the women that I know. But when you look at absolute terms, when you look at numbers and statistics, women are far from well represented in the industry, honestly, and we have a long way to go. I would really recommend that everybody read this study called Lights, Camera and Time for Action, because you realize that actually in real terms, there are not enough women. In percentage terms, it's actually in low single digits. So it feels very, especially in the core producing or cinematography or writing, it's in like 5-7%. It just feels to me like we really need to actively advocate for more women in crew, in obviously better representation of women on screen, of course, not just as the romantic co-lead, and also for queer people, for people with disabilities, for people from all other spectrum, from people from different castes. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, honestly. Once I read that, I felt it was a bit of a shock to me, because I felt like, oh yeah, things are improving. But when you look at it, they did it based on the end scroll of 35 films, so we have hard numbers here, and I think there's some way to go there.
It's a huge gap.
It's a big gap. Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Really enjoyed this.
Me too. Thank you.